There is a version of you that talks too much, explains too much, reacts too fast, shows too much, and gives away power without even knowing it. That version of you is easy to read, easy to predict, easy to control. The world has met that version before. The person who rushes to defend every insult. The person who fills every silence because quiet feels uncomfortable. The person who reveals every plan before the first step is taken. The person who confuses noise with strength. And because of that, the world never fears them. It studies them, uses them, distracts them, and moves on. But there is another version of you, a quieter version, a deeper version, a more dangerous version. Not dangerous because it harms people, dangerous because it cannot be manipulated easily, dangerous because it does not leak energy through endless words, dangerous because it has learned the discipline of silence. When you stop announcing everything, something changes. Your mind sharpens, your presence grows. Your emotions stop driving the wheel, and people begin to feel that there is more inside you than what they can see. Most people are not weak because they lack talent. They are weak because everything inside them is exposed all the time. Every opinion, every hurt, every craving, every goal, every insecurity, every impulse is on display. They speak while angry and regret it later. They promise while excited and never follow through. They complain when they should observe. They explain when they should act. They reveal what they want before the right moment arrives. Then they wonder why they feel drained, overlooked, and powerless. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is containment. Silence is stored force. It is the difference between a river flooding everywhere and a river guided through a narrow path with unstoppable pressure. The mind works the same way. When your thoughts run out through your mouth all day, your power leaks. When every emotion becomes a reaction, your energy becomes scattered. But when you learn to hold your center, to pause, to observe, to let moments breathe without rushing to fill them, your inner world begins to organize itself. That is when you stop being easy to handle. Think about how much damage in life comes from the inability to be still for a few seconds. One angry message sent too quickly. One secret shared with the wrong person. One unnecessary argument that grows into a broken relationship. One desperate explanation that lowers your value. One emotional outburst that gives someone the exact map to your weakness. So much pain is not caused by evil destiny. It is caused by a mouth moving faster than wisdom. It is caused by a mind that has not learned the power of restraint. The strongest people are not always the loudest people. In fact, the loudest people are often begging to be believed. They need constant recognition because they have not built a quiet certainty inside themselves. Real strength does not tremble when the room goes silent. Real strength does not panic when it is misunderstood for a moment. Real strength does not chase every chance to prove itself. It waits. It watches. It chooses the right time. And when it moves with precision. There is a reason silence feels uncomfortable to so many people. Silence removes distraction. It forces you to meet yourself. No entertainment, no performance, no endless stream of talking to cover what is really happening inside. In silence, you hear the thoughts you have been trying to outrun. You notice how restless you are. You notice how addicted you are to being validated. You notice how quickly your mind reaches for approval, defense, control, or escape. That is why silence is so powerful. It exposes what noise hides. And that is also why most people never stay with it long enough to benefit from it. They treat silence like a void, when in truth it is a mirror. The first thing silence shows you is your chaos. The second thing it gives you is your clarity. But most people quit at the first stage. They get uncomfortable, so they go back to the noise, back to the scrolling, the explaining, the reacting, the gossip, the emotional spilling. They never reach the part where silence turns into control. They never reach the part where the mind becomes disciplined. If you can stay silent when your ego wants to speak, you begin to build something rare. You build command over yourself, and self-command is the root of all power. Not control over others, control over your impulses, control over your attention, control over your emotions. Control over the need to respond instantly. This is where dangerous people are made, not in public, not in applause, in private, in the invisible moments when they decide not to chase the last word, in the quiet moment when they choose patience over impulse. A person who can sit with an urge without obeying it is already becoming uncommon. That one skill changes everything. The urge to explain yourself, the urge to text them back immediately, the urge to prove them wrong, the urge to reveal your next move, the urge to spend now and regret later, the urge to quit because progress is slow, the urge to speak just because the silence feels heavy. If you can feel the urge and still remain still, your life begins to belong to you again. People think self-control is only about resisting temptation through brute force. But real self-control is deeper than that. It is not just gritting your teeth and surviving the moment. It is learning how to step back from the emotion, how to widen the space between feeling and action, how to stop obeying every signal that rises inside you. The hidden mind is not dead. It is disciplined. It still feels anger, desire, fear, pride, and pain, but it is not ruled by them. It watches them, it studies them. It decides what deserves action and what deserves silence. This is why silence is so unsettling to people who live by manipulation. They feed on reactions. They rely on your need to defend yourself. They count on your impatience. They study your emotional patterns. They throw bait and wait for you to grab it. The moment you react without thinking, they have information. They know what hurts you. They know what triggers you. They know how to steer your behavior. But when you stop giving instant reactions, when you become measured, when you answer less and observe more, the game changes. They can no longer read you so easily. Silence makes you hard to exploit because silence slows the exchange of power. Every conversation is not just words, it is information, emotion, position, and energy moving between people. The one who cannot hold silence often gives away all four. They reveal their intentions, their desperation, their insecurity, and their next move. The one who can remain calm and quiet does something else. They gather information. They allow others to speak more. They notice what is said and what is avoided. They let the room expose itself. You have seen this without realizing it. In an argument, the first person to lose emotional control usually loses more than the argument. They lose respect. They lose clarity. They say things they cannot take back. They expose wounds they did not mean to reveal. Meanwhile, the calm person, the one who does not rush, the one who speaks only after thinking, holds the center of gravity in the room. It is not magic. It is nervous system control. It is emotional regulation. It is the ability to refuse immediate surrender to an emotion. Silence also protects growth. One of the biggest mistakes people make is speaking too early about what they are building. They announce the dream before the structure exists. They talk about discipline before it becomes identity. They tell everyone what they are going to do, and for a moment the praise feels almost like progress. But words can become a substitute for action. The mind takes social approval as if the work has already begun. Then the fire cools, the urgency fades, and the dream dies in the place where it was first exposed. There is wisdom in keeping some things sacred while they are still fragile. A seed grows best underground. It does not need applause. It needs protection. The same is true for your plans, your healing, your next chapter. Not everything deserves public access while it is forming. Some goals need silence because silence keeps them concentrated. Silence keeps them warm. Silence keeps them free from the opinions of people who do not carry your responsibility and do not understand your path. This does not mean becoming cold, distant, or emotionally dead. It does not mean refusing love. It does not mean never speaking your truth. It means becoming intentional. It means your words no longer spill out of you simply because you feel something strongly in the moment. It means you understand that truth delivered without timing can become destruction. It means you stop treating every feeling like a command and start treating feelings like information. Some people hear the idea of staying silent and think it means weakness, like you are letting others win. But silence is not surrender when it is chosen from strength. Sometimes speaking is necessary. Sometimes boundaries must be clear. Sometimes injustice must be named. But powerful speech is not constant speech. Powerful speech is selective speech. It comes from clarity, not emotional panic. It comes after observation, not before it. It has weight because it is rare, because it is deliberate, because people know that when you finally speak, you mean it. That is why a quiet person with self-respect can shift an entire room with a few words, while a noisy person can talk for hours and leave no mark at all. Value is not created by volume. It is created by substance and control. And control grows in silence. When you speak less, you begin to hear more. You hear patterns in people. You hear hidden motives. You hear your own excuses. You hear the difference between what you say you want and what your habits prove you want. Silence makes liars uncomfortable. including the liar that sometimes lives inside your own mind. The hidden mind is built when you stop needing everyone to understand you immediately. This is a hard lesson, because the ego wants witnesses. It wants people to know you are changing. It wants them to see your effort, admire your restraint, recognize your pain, applaud your vision. But some of the most important transformations in life happen in private, without witnesses, without validation, without anyone clapping for you while you do the work. Can you still become who you said you would become if nobody praises you for it? Can you still stay disciplined when silence is the only thing keeping you company? That question separates people who are in love with the image of growth from people who are committed to growth itself. The image wants to be seen. Commitment wants to be built. The image talks. Commitment works. The image performs. Commitment repeats. The image gets excited. Commitment gets quiet and keeps going. If you want real power, you must fall in love with the part of the journey that nobody can celebrate for you. The early mornings, the swallowed reactions, the lonely consistency, the private decisions, the silent refusal to become who your impulses want you to become. There is another reason silence is dangerous. It deepens your perception. When you are not constantly preparing your next sentence, your attention becomes available. You start to notice micro-expressions, contradictions, hesitation, fear, arrogance, dishonesty, loneliness. You notice who always talks about others because they are trying to avoid themselves. You notice who needs to dominate every conversation because silence would expose how insecure they feel. You notice who reveals their motives through what they keep repeating. The quiet mind collects data. The noisy mind misses everything. This matters in relationships, business, family, and personal survival. The one who observes well suffers less from illusion. They do not fall for every performance. They do not confuse confidence with character. They do not mistake attention for love. They do not trust words alone. Silence teaches you to respect patterns over promises. That lesson alone can save years of pain. Many people are destroyed not because life was unfair, but because they kept ignoring what quiet observation was trying to show them. Silence is also the place where desire becomes stronger than distraction. Every meaningful life demands the ability to delay gratification, to choose the long-term reward over the short-term release, to wait, to build, to let discipline outrun impulse. This shows up everywhere. The person who saves instead of spending to impress strangers. The person who trains instead of sleeping through the promise they made to themselves. The person who studies while others waste years in entertainment. The person who holds their tongue instead of feeding an argument that will cost them peace. These are not dramatic acts, but together they build an extraordinary life. And notice something important. Delay is easier when the mind is quiet. A loud mind wants immediate relief, immediate pleasure, immediate revenge, immediate explanation, immediate comfort. But a quiet mind can stay with discomfort without collapsing. It can wait for the better reward. It can survive not getting what it wants right now. That is why silence and discipline are deeply connected. Silence trains your nervous system not to panic in the gap between desire and fulfillment. It teaches you that not every empty space must be filled immediately. Most people ruin their future because they cannot tolerate temporary discomfort. They need the dopamine now, the answer now, the praise now, the result now, the revenge now. They are slaves to urgency. But the dangerous person knows something else. They know that urgency is often a trap. Not every invitation deserves acceptance. Not every conflict deserves response. Not every desire deserves obedience. They understand that patience is not passive. Patience is strategic. Patience is pressure under control. Patience is a form of intelligence. Look at nature. The most powerful forces are often silent while they gather. Mountains do not announce themselves. The night does not argue for its depth. Roots do not beg to be admired while they hold the entire tree upright. Great things often form in silence first. That is not an accident. Depth needs stillness. Stability needs hidden structure. Anything constantly on display is usually still trying to prove itself. The mature mind no longer needs to scream its worth. It builds it. The tragedy is that many people never discover this because they are addicted to external release. They tell everyone their pain but never sit with it long enough to understand it. They broadcast every setback but never learn from it. They turn every internal battle into a public event. There is a difference between healthy openness and constant exposure. Openness can heal. Exposure without wisdom can weaken. If every wound is available to every stranger, if every emotion becomes public property, your inner life loses protection. Some parts of you should be expressed carefully, not displayed carelessly. When you become more silent, you do not become empty. You become weighted. Your presence gains gravity. People feel that you are not easily pushed. You stop looking needy because you stop chasing response. You stop looking scattered because your attention is not leaking into every argument and every distraction. You stop looking fragile because you are no longer trembling at the possibility of being misunderstood. Something in you settles, and that settled energy is powerful. It makes people listen differently. It makes weak chaos lose interest in you because it cannot pull you as easily as before. This is especially important in a world designed to provoke you. Every day there is something begging for your reaction. A headline, a comment, a message, an insult, a comparison, a temptation, an outrage. The modern world profits from your inability to stay still. A triggered mind is easy to control. A distracted mind is easy to sell to. An emotionally impulsive person is easy to redirect. So if you learn silence in this kind of world, you are not just improving yourself. You are reclaiming your freedom. Freedom is not doing whatever you feel like doing in the moment. That is often another name for bondage to impulse. Real freedom is being able to choose your response. Real freedom is not being owned by your appetite, your anger, your fear, your loneliness, or your need to be approved by everyone watching. The person who cannot be silent cannot be fully free, because someone else can always pull their strings with the right trigger. There will be moments when silence saves you. A moment when someone wants a reaction and gets none. A moment when your pride wants to speak but wisdom tells you to wait. A moment when a lie is circulating about you and every insecure part of you wants to chase it down. But your deeper self knows that not every false story deserves your life force. A moment when you are underestimated, and instead of arguing for your potential, you let your work speak later. Those moments look small. They are not. Those moments build your identity. And identity is everything, because eventually staying silent stops being a tactic and becomes a nature. You no longer force yourself every time. You simply become the kind of person who does not react cheaply. The kind of person who thinks before speaking. The kind of person who allows discomfort without surrendering to it. The kind of person who protects what is sacred, moves in quiet discipline, and lets results make the introduction. That is when silence stops being something you practice and starts becoming something you are. But to become that person, you will have to endure being misunderstood. Some people will think your silence means weakness because they only understand noise. Some will think your calm means you have nothing to say because they cannot recognize contained power. Some will feel exposed by your stillness because your refusal to perform forces them to face their own lack of depth. Let them think what they want for a while. Not every season of your life is for explanation. Some seasons are for construction. Remember this, being unreadable is not about pretending. It is about becoming internally ordered. When your mind is chaotic, silence feels like pressure. When your mind is disciplined, silence feels like home. And from that home, better decisions are made. Better relationships are chosen. Better habits are repeated. Better futures are built. The hidden mind is not hidden because it is fake. It is hidden because it is protected. It knows that not everyone deserves full access. Not every environment is worthy of your deepest truth. Not every person has earned your most honest energy. There is a story many people live without admitting it. They keep talking because they are afraid that if they stop, they will disappear. They keep explaining because they fear being misjudged. They keep posting, arguing, defending, proving, and revealing because they think visibility is safety. But often the opposite is true. Constant exposure makes you easier to attack, easier to imitate, easier to exhaust. There is a level of strength that only appears when you no longer need to be seen every minute to believe that you exist. You begin to realize that peace is more valuable than winning every conversation. Dignity is more valuable than being liked by everyone. Discipline is more valuable than temporary pleasure. Mystery is more valuable than overexposure. Inner order is more valuable than outer performance. This shift changes your life because it changes what you respect. Once you truly respect restraint, your standards rise. You stop admiring loud confidence without substance. You stop envying people who display everything but possess little within. You become loyal to depth, and depth takes time. It takes practice. It takes failing, speaking too soon, regretting it, learning, and choosing better next time. It takes moments when you feel fire rising in your chest and still decide not to let it become destruction. It takes sitting alone with hard thoughts instead of escaping them. It takes letting silence teach you where your cravings are strongest. But every time you do this, you carve a new path inside yourself. A path of steadiness, a path of command, a path that fewer and fewer people can shake. One day you will notice the difference. The old version of you would have argued. The new version simply smiled and kept walking. The old version would have revealed the plan. The new version kept building in private. The old version would have looked for comfort. The new version stayed with the discomfort and grew stronger because of it. The old version would have let temporary emotion control permanent decisions. The new version waited until truth returned. That is the day you will understand that silence did not make you smaller. It made you dangerous. Dangerous to every habit that once controlled you. Dangerous to every distraction that used to steal your future. Dangerous to every manipulator who relied on your reactivity. Dangerous to every weakness that survived only because you never sat still long enough to confront it. Dangerous to mediocrity. Dangerous to wasted potential. Dangerous to the version of you that kept choosing relief over greatness. So the next time life tests you, do not rush. When they provoke you, breathe. When the room gets quiet, do not panic. When you feel the urge to explain, pause. When your ego wants the final word, let wisdom take the lead. When your plan is still forming, protect it. When your emotions are loud, listen without obeying. Let silence become your training ground. Let it sharpen your instincts, discipline your impulses, and strengthen your identity. Let it teach you that power does not always look like action in the moment. Sometimes power looks like restraint, because the person who can remain composed while others crumble, patient while others rush, silent while others reveal everything, focused while others seek applause, that person becomes almost impossible to defeat. Not because life stops being hard, but because they stop making life harder with unnecessary reactions. They stop handing away power for free. They stop living at the mercy of every passing emotion. There is a hidden throne inside every human being. Most people never sit on it because they are too busy obeying every urge that enters the mind. Too busy proving, too busy reacting, too busy chasing noise. But if you can learn to be still, if you can let silence shape you instead of scare you, if you can hold your power without announcing it, then you begin to rule your inner kingdom. And once a person can rule themselves, the outside world loses much of its power to break them. Become the one who does not need to be loud to be strong. Become the one whose peace cannot be purchased by approval. Become the one whose words are few but exact. Become the one who can wait, the one who can watch, the one who can build without applause, the one who can feel deeply without reacting blindly. Become the one whose silence is not emptiness but evidence of depth, evidence of discipline, evidence of a mind no longer available for cheap control. This world will always reward noise for a moment, but time rewards substance. Time rewards discipline. Time rewards the people who can hold themselves together long enough to create something real. So do not fear becoming quieter. Do not fear becoming harder to read. Do not fear protecting your energy. Do not fear withholding what is still sacred and unfinished. There is power in that. There is beauty in that. There is danger in that. And maybe that is the transformation you need right now. Not more motivation that disappears by tomorrow. Not more promises spoken into the air. Not more public declarations that never become reality. Maybe what you need is a silent war, a private revolution, a season where you stop talking so much about the life you want and start becoming the kind of person who can hold it. A season where your mouth becomes calmer, your mind becomes sharper, your emotions become trained, and your actions become undeniable. Let people underestimate you. Let them misunderstand the quiet. Let them think nothing is happening. Meanwhile, build, heal, learn, save, train, study, create, endure. Grow roots so deep that when life shakes again, you do not fall apart. Become so internally steady that insults lose power, distractions lose flavor, and your goals stop being wishes and start becoming commands. Do not waste your life proving yourself to people who cannot see beyond noise. become dangerous by mastering what most people avoid: the pause, the restraint, the discipline, the invisible work, the hidden mind. And when the time comes, you will not need to announce your strength. Your life will speak with a force that words never could. So from this moment on, protect your energy, guard your mind, slow your reactions, choose your words like they matter, because they do. Let silence refine you until you become the kind of presence that changes the room without begging for attention. That is real power. That is real freedom. That is what happens when a person finally stops leaking themselves into the world and starts directing their force with intention. If this message reached something deep inside you, do not ignore it when this ends. Carry it into your next conversation, your next conflict, your next temptation, your next lonely hour. Practice the pause. Practice the patience. Practice the quiet discipline that builds a stronger life brick by brick. And if you are ready to become more focused, more powerful, and more impossible to control, subscribe, like this video, and leave a comment saying, "Silence is power."